Hey, welcome back to Brian Bandas Builds a Business, where we talk about real estate development and business building and how to do both while staying sane and healthy in mind, body, and spirit. And today we are going to evaluate two real estate development deals. I'm just going to walk through it and screen record, talk about what I'm thinking about and whether or not we should buy these deals for this price. Let's do it. All right, so here's the screen and we're going to do two different deals, okay? We're going to start with basic comps. Okay, so the first deal is going to be a luxury deal. This is going to be very similar to the home that I just finished, and you guys have seen it on my channel. Hoping to sell it for about 4.5 million. It's in the Green Hills area. I've got the opportunity potentially to buy a lot about a block from there and to replicate what I just did on that deal. So here's the basic area. I'm going to draw a map. And this is roughly where we're looking. This little block. Obviously there's going to be some variation within that area, but not a ton. Over here we're looking at residential. I want to see everything active, coming soon, and closed, let's say the last 6 months. And then I want to look at year built, and I don't want to go any older than, let's say 2022, just in case there was a new one that took a while to build. It's listed as 22, but it was maybe, you know, finished late 23 and sold in 24 or something like that. And then size, because I know what we're wanting to build. I'm gonna go here and make sure that I'm looking at stuff that's, let's go 5,000 feet and larger. What we're gonna build is gonna be around 7, the last one was 78. Let's see what comes up here. I also know that this lot is about 0.6, a little over 0.6 acres. And really, I'm looking at two different things. I'm looking at what has sold for sure. And then the relevance of stuff that hasn't sold is to basically look and say, if somebody was buying right now, what would my competition be? So only 6 in this area and this price point have sold in the last 6 months. Excuse me, only 4 have sold in the last 6 months. Right off the bat, I'm looking at these two, Harding Place and Kaler, and I'm thinking, man, this deal won't work if that's our prices. Harding Place, I happen to know it's on this really busy street right here. Additionally, just looking at that, it looks like it's what's called an HPR, which means they put 2 houses on 1 lot, which is fine. That's not a bad thing in particular, but it is worth noting it's different than a single home sitting on its own lot. It says it's a 75-foot wide lot. The pictures make me think that this is an HPR, and here's how we're going to figure it out. We're going to do a little research. So this is called Parcel Viewer. It's GIS mapping, and most municipalities are going to have it. So I'm just going to go 4,000 Harding Place. Let's just see what we can see. Absolutely. Okay, so they did not list it this way, but as you can see, this is 2 houses, 1, 2, on this 1 lot, which is fine, but it totally changes the value. It's not really a comp. Next, we've got this one, 3916 Kaler, and I'm wondering the same thing. And they actually have it listed as an HPR. You can see right here, HPR detached. So that's not really a comp either. And as you can see, there's nothing wrong with these houses. They're very nice houses. I mean, they're $2.5 million houses, but it is a very urban feel. It's very narrow. It's just a different product than what we are trying to do, which, by the way, what we're trying to do is actually for sale right here. It's this bad boy. Clearly a different style than the narrow pushed together type of deal. This is the one we have for sale right now for 4.5. Somebody come buy it. It's an amazing house. So first I want to look at these two closed comps that are much more comparable. You can see they're wide, kind of sprawling. This one's still smaller. What I'm trying to comp is that house that I just showed you, because my intention is to put maybe not the exact same floor plan, but a very similar product on a very similar lot. So I'm comping 7,800 square feet, and I know that it's going to have a wine room and certain quality of finishes, etc. So this is about 2,000 square feet smaller, but where is the lot size? Okay, so, and it's the same size lot. It's on a half-acre lot. It's a very pretty house. The windows are awesome. Got a nice entrance here. I'm a front porch guy. So if this was me, I would just wish that front entrance was deeper. And I didn't do this on the Sneed house, and it's a change that I might make. I would just want a little roof and somewhere to sit on that, a covered place to sit on that front porch. But I'm basically looking at this and going, okay, This is roughly the same quality, same size. We got a 3-car garage. We had that. There's no pool. There's no major differences that made me go, oh, this is going to get 4 million, but it's way better than mine, or it's way worse than mine. This is actually a decent comp. I think I like our back porch better. I like things about their front facade a little bit better than ours, but this is a really good comp. Now, I don't like to use the price per square foot that much because it's just, there's too many variables. There's too many differences. For instance, if this had a pool, maybe it goes for $300,000 or $400,000 more and the square footage is the same. Totally destroys the price per square foot. So I don't like to use that a ton, but I know that somebody paid $4 million for 5,800 square feet. That's very comparable to what I just did at 7,800 square feet. Let's look at this other one, 6.2 million. And this is 8,500 square feet. So this is a little bigger than ours by about 700 square feet. This is also on the same size lot, 0.6 acres. That's pretty much what we've got. As you can see, this has a very modern feel to it. A lot of straight lines. Look at that door, that's awesome. As I'm scrolling through this, I'm looking at it, and honestly, what strikes me is this is a very different product than what we created. Clearly, people like this modern thing. They paid quite a bit for it. It's very open. This is a cool build, but it's not the same product. This might be why they got so much more, even though it's very similar in size and a similar size lot. This is a little more expensive to build than what I did, and that's okay. I don't really need to get 6.2. What I'm hoping to get, and we'll go look at the pro forma in a second, is similar to what I'm trying to get on the home on Sneed. I'm trying to get like mid 4 millions. Dude, this is a cool house though. Look at this thing. There's the big difference maker. Boom. So what we do have is a really cool, nice patio, just like this. In fact, I think ours is a little nicer. We have a bigger kitchen. We have remote controlled screens. We have heaters, recessed heaters in the ceiling, but we do not have that pool. Look at that pool. That's awesome. So that is why they got 6.2 and we are trying to get 4.5. Now it does make me think, it is definitely not another $1.5 million to put that pool in. It might mean it makes a ton of sense to build the same kind of house that I did, put in a pool, let's say for $200,000-$300,000 that gets me another $1 million, something like that. That's a win, something to consider. So we got 6.2, larger with a pool, very modern. They got 725 a square foot. The other house that we looked at got 681 a square foot. So let's try that. Let's try 681 a square foot just as a starting place. 681 times, we're gonna build 7,800, 5.3. I mean, that would be great, but we don't have to get that for this deal to work. I'm hoping to get 4.6. So let's do that divided by 7,800 square feet. And we're just trying to get 590 a square foot. Both of these sold for quite a bit more than that. So without a whole lot more to work with, I'm looking at this going, all right, it seems like 4.6, which is what I'm hoping to get, is reasonable and that I don't have to put in a pool to get that. So let's go here. This is the street name. They want 1.4 for the lot, just barely on the high side, honestly, but my build cost, I've got at 1.6. Now that number comes specifically from what I just spent to build this other house on Sneed. I spent about 1.6. However, when I bought that, the windows were included. They had already been purchased by a builder who wasn't going to do the project. However, I also have now gone through the budget, figured out where we had some waste, and I think that I can sort of clean that up and hit 1.6 again without the windows included. This is the build fee that I'm planning to charge as the construction company. Let me tell you about my carrying costs. So what I want to do moving forward is roll all my interest payments into the loan so that we aren't paying interest payments as we go. So what I do here is I estimate first, here are my costs that I want to roll in, lot cost, build cost, plus my build fee. And then I want to roll in interest. And so my guess was that if I take these, I'm going to do the math. I won't do it on the next one, but for fun, here's what I would do. Right now, we seem to be paying between 8 and 9% for interest. So I'm just going to take those numbers, 1.4 plus 1.6 plus my 75,000. And then plus a guess, well, okay, so here's where the guess number comes from. If I do that times 9%, which is what we're paying in interest roughly on commercial stuff, a little less, maybe 8.5, I come to 275. So I'm gonna round up, I'm gonna throw 300 in there. And if I do this, again, 1.4 plus 1.6 plus 75 plus what I said, I'm rounding up to 300. That's what I want to get a loan for. Now they're going to want a down payment. So I want this loan amount. They're going to want a down payment. So I'm going to go times 0.8. They're going to want right now probably on something like this 20 to 25% down. So now there's my loan amount 2.7. And if I'm paying 9% interest, if I were at full draw for the whole thing, meaning if I were paying interest on the entire loan the whole time, which is not the case, then I would pay, looks like, 250. I'm going to round up to 300. And that's what I put on my pro forma here. Because I want some room there. The reason I use that, so we're not at full draw the whole time, right? When we first close on it, we're just going to be paying for the lot. Then we'll pay for a little bit of construction, then a little bit of more. So what you really have is a scenario where you're paying on, 25% of loan, then 30, then 45%, then 60, and so on. You're really not paying that 9% on the full amount till the end. However, I like to build in that cushion and round up just in case the build takes longer. In particular, I've had experiences where we really had to wrestle with permitting and it ended up taking longer and we end up, holding the lot for 6 months or more just waiting to finish permitting. So I build in this cushion. Hopefully we won't spend $300,000 on interest, but if we do, now we've got it. And if we don't, that can cover construction overages if we have them. So that's where my carrying cost number comes from. Closing costs is for the front end and the back. It's going to be a little bit higher when you're working with these numbers, but these closing costs cover the closing costs when I purchase the land and when I sell it. The bigger costs are on the front end. I've got loan origination, stuff like that. On the back end, you do have some like prorated taxes, etc. But at that point, the biggest cost is your title insurance policy that in a lot of places as a seller, you're going to provide. At least here in Nashville, typically the seller's paying for that. Here's my commission. In this case, this lot was brought to me by an agent. So she's expecting, the deal is, hey, I bring you this, you pay me 6%. So those are all my expenses. Boom, they add up here. I'm hoping to sell for 4.6. And I just looked at comps that make me believe that that seems realistic. And so here's our potential profit, 920,000. This was the down payment that I came up with. So I'm shopping this to investors saying, we're going to raise 700,000 in cash. That'll be primarily down payment. We're going to split the profit 50-50. So if somebody brings 700 grand to make 460 in theory, if we hit these numbers. Is that going to be exact? Not at all. But it at least tells me and investor partners that this is a deal that's probably worth doing over the course of an 18-month build. That is a 45% ROI. That's pretty cool. That's pretty good. Real quick for fun, let's say we threw a pool in and we could go build cost, add 250, so 185. All right, we do that. And then we said sale. Let's say because of that, it ends up being 5.2. Yeah, so if we do that, now we're making 1.2 million. So that might be worth considering. All right, on to the next one. So full disclosure, this next one is one that I already own and I've already begun building it. It's in this area. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to draw a map. We're basically going this whole area, this side of the highway, and we're going to see what things are selling for. Some of this over here is going to be a little different. Our house is like right up in here on Thunderbird, and we're going to search for the same thing. Last 6 months, very different project. Square footage on this, I'm going to go 2,000 and above. We're building around 2,400. So this one is very near our property, 870, 2,800 square feet. Very, very similar to what we're building. We've got a little covered patio. We've got a similar roof line. I mean, this is very similar. So 870, a little bit larger. This is an HPR, as you can see. They've got it listed here as an HPR, which is 2 houses on one lot next to each other. And ours is the same thing. So this is really good comp. 870, 313 a square foot. We're a little smaller, so we might do a little better per square foot. So let's just say 320 times 2,400, and that puts us at 770. I don't know if that's going to work on this deal. Let's take a look. Man, but look at this over here. 960. They got a couple cool big porches. I mean, we don't have those, so I don't know. Maybe those aren't good comps. All right, so let's stay in this area. Let's zoom in a little bit over here. We got 825 right here. We got 870 we just looked at. What's tucked in right here? 1.1 million. 3,100, so that's bigger. It's also an HPR. Nice garage door, it's interesting. This architecture is sort of modern with this big flat front, and I assume that's like a balcony, but maybe that's not a balcony. But the colors are not, like the brick and the beige and stuff, that's not that modern. That's gotta be a balcony, right? This is kind of cool with all the natural wood. I like that. Sometimes I just scroll through the MLS to just see what other builders are doing and get ideas. Works like a charm. That's a nice house. Not super comparable to what we're doing. It's definitely bigger by 600 square feet. Here's one for 780. I actually think that ours is a little more attractive than that. That is still just a touch larger at 2,600. That backs up to the interstate though. Ours does not back up to the interstate. So that definitely matters. These are for sale for 950. Similar in size. Again, a touch bigger. We're at like 24 and change. So they're 300 square feet larger. There's one that sold for 835. Now that does not look like an HPR. Maybe. See how narrow that is from one house to the next? That might be an HPR. 835. Yeah, it is an HPR. This is right around the same size as ours. It's got a much more modern-ish feel. Ours is not quite this open. I actually think that I kind of like ours a little better on the interior. This is very modern and in some ways a little bit plain. That's kind of a nice setup. So that, what did I say that was? 835. This is really tough to comp, but I'm going to say we're getting, let's just use that number. 835. Same size. I think I like that number because some of these others are larger when they're getting more money. Let's be conservative. Let's say 815. So they want 450 for the lot over here, but it's 2 build. So that's 225 per unit. Right? And then we're going to do, this is 2,400 square feet. I happen to know that I built a very similar house that I'm just finishing. Came in at like 430 a foot, 430,000 total. So let's call this 450 just to be conservative. I think we'll come in under that. It's very similar. My build fee on these are 25 each. They're much smaller. They don't take as long. Our carrying costs are going to be quite a bit less. Now, interest is still rough and I don't know what is about to happen. So I'm throwing in 50 a unit. Let's do math. Yeah. Came out to about 54,000. So we'll go 55 as a carrying cost. Closing costs is for front end and back end. So this is going to be half of the closing costs for the purchase because if you recall, we're dividing this among 2 units and then whatever the closing costs are on the sale, not including commission. I got a separate line for that. On this particular project, I found the lot. So I'm going to actually put in, I'm still licensed as an agent and maybe to save myself money, I'll list it. But if not, I'm going to put in 4.5%. That way I can hire somebody. Oh, it's 0 because I don't have a sales price. So what did we say? 8. Let's go 815. Look at that. $8,000 profit. That's a no-no. That's a no-no. So we got to do a couple things here in order to make it work. We got to build faster. Try to get this. Let's say we got that down to 45,000. So this is a deal we're already in, and I bought it really right before the market sort of took a downward turn, which we all experienced. So I would say I overpaid for it. 225 is too much per building pad. I got to make sure I control this building cost. The ones I just finished at 430, we got to make sure we do that. I'm going to take this fee and cut it in half, give half of it back to my investor partners. I got to follow the schedule like aggressively so we can keep carrying costs down and sell it quickly. And then I can potentially sell it myself. Let's pretend I do that out of the goodness of my heart for free. That commission goes down. Now we got some profit to play with if we sell at 815, right? And if we end up at 835, boom, we've kind of saved the deal, right? We're doing 82,000 profit per house. So this is a deal that I would say if I was evaluating it, without making those tweaks, and those tweaks I'm making because I already own it. So it's like, we got a problem solved. But really, I would probably go back to them and say, I can't pay 450 for this. I probably would say I want a lot cost of 185 a unit, you know, and then we can be not so tight here and I can pay myself to build and I can pay an agent to do this and I get it at 185 and we're still making 87 or, you know, even if I were to pay 200, even that could work. So probably what I would have done had the numbers looked this way at the time and they didn't, I would have said, hey, I can't pay 450 for this. I can pay 400 or I can pay, you know, 380 or whatever. And maybe they would sell it to me, maybe they wouldn't. The hardest part of all of this for sure is comping. Not only is there not an exact science, even if I was selling it right now, maybe I would know what to sell for. But really what I'm trying to do is figure out what I'm going to sell this thing for, what, in a year to a year and a half, depending on where we are in the process. That's incredibly difficult to do. So you got to comp as realistically as you can. You've got to make adjustments. You've got to think like a buyer and go, hey, even if I don't care if it's an HPR, the market has told me people do care and they get less money. Or I don't really care if it backs up to the interstate, but the market has said on repeat for decades, we do care and we pay less if it backs up to an interstate or a train track or whatever. So you got to think like a buyer. And if you don't know how to think like a buyer, that's fine. Hire a good agent who knows, who has experience and has walked through hundreds of houses with hundreds of buyers and listened to their feedback. And so they know. My dog's pissed because we're getting packages dropped off. All right, hey, that's it. I hope that's really helpful to y'all. As usual, if you're getting something out of this, if you're becoming a better entrepreneur, a better real estate developer, investor, maybe a better person in some way, then go ahead and like the video and subscribe to the channel. Lastly, if you really want to learn how to do this, like for real, go to dealarchitect.org. It's a very thorough, hardcore course that I created that teaches you how to develop real estate. There's a lot of videos like this where we evaluate deals. There's pro formas, there's budgets. It's awesome. If you are serious about developing, it is the best resource that I am aware of. All right, guys, don't be afraid to take action. I'll see you soon.